moved from a particular part of the organism to another part where it can be ejected from the body of the organism. So that's another kind of movement. Now, cyclosis is another type of movement. This is the constant, slow streaming movement of protoplasm within the cell, which helps to circulate materials along definite paths. So you can't say that some organisms don't move because you don't see them jumping around like your cat or rat, especially plants. They are living and they also move, but they have peculiarity in their own movement. For instance, in paramecium and these Elodia plants, there is a constant slow streaming movement of their protoplasm. The protoplasm is a component of the cell. So that movement helps the cell to circulate materials along a definite path. So that there is a kind of beating that occurs in this plant, and that's what, or in the paramecium, that's what is called cyclosis. Is a form of movement, and the movement of metabolic waste too is also a form of movement. So movement is not restricted to the whole organism moving. Some part of the organism can move for various reasons, like I've mentioned earlier. Then I'll be talking about the organelles for movements. Basically, 3 organelles for movements we'll be considering. Flagella. Flagella is a whip-like extension of certain cells, which cause, when they beat it, it causes movement. It's a very long, it's a whip-like, like a stick-like organelle in the organism, and it is whipped like this. When the, for instance, in Iglina, it's very long. Find it at the top of the organism, and it whips it. Once it whips it like this, the organism moves. Another whipping, it moves. So that's how the organism moves. It doesn't have to run on 2 legs like you do, but it's also moving. Flagella, and flagella is found in Iglina, like I said. It's also found in Chlamydomonas. It's dropping Chlamydomonas, just to find it at the tip of the organism. Even in Iglina, it's at the top, but it's just single. You also find Iglina in Trypanosome. The next organelle for movement is cilia. Cilia, in its own case, is small compared to flagella. Flagella is a very long whip-like extension, but in cilia is a very short hair-like structure that is present on the surface of many animals. You find it in paramecium. The paramecium is surrounded by small hair-like structure called paramecium, and that is what aids its movement. Then it also beats the surface. By that movement, the movement of the cilia, it also gets to feed. So it's very important. The third organelle for movement is pseudopodia. Pseudo means false, while podo means foot. So it's a false foot, but it's basically found in amoeba. Amoeba does not have flagella, neither does it have cilia. So it's the movement in amoeba is made by this pseudopodia. It's just a special locomotory organ for it. It doesn't have flagella or cilia. So we talked about 3 types of organelles for movement: flagella, cilia, and pseudopodia. Now we move on to the questions. I want you to go through these questions and answer them accurately, so that you'll be able to know. They are JAMB questions and WAEC questions. So in preparing for your exams, it will really help you to know if you have really covered what you are supposed to. The first question here is that the function of ribosome in cells is dash. What is the function of ribosome? A. Protein synthesis. B. Starch synthesis. C. Transport of materials. Then D. Lipid storage. What is the function of ribosome in a plant cell or in a cell? The function of ribosome in cells. Then the next question is, which of the following structure is common to Iglina, white blood cell, and amoeba? What structure is common to Iglina, amoeba, and white blood cell? A. Vacuole. B. Cell wall. C. Cilia. D. Cell membrane. Then the third question, which structure is known as the powerhouse of the cell? Which structure is known as the powerhouse of the cell? A. Nucleus, B. Mitochondria, C. Golgi body, D. Nucleolus. Which of these is referred to as the powerhouse of the cell? Number 4. On what structures are the units of inheritance situated? On what structures are the units of inheritance situated? A. Golgi bodies, B. Ribosome, C. Chromosome, D. Endoplasmic reticulum. Then number 5. In which of the following organisms does a single cell perform all the functions of movement, nutrition, growth, excretion, and photosynthesis? Which of the following organisms go through movement, nutrition, growth, excretion, and photosynthesis on a single cell? A. Paramecium, B. Iglina, C. Amoeba, D. Spirogyra. So the answers. Number 1 is A. The function of ribosomes in cell is for protein synthesis. If you go back to check your notes on cell organelles, you discover that the function of ribosome is for the synthesis of protein. Then number 2, the answer is D, cell membrane. The structure that is common to Iglina, white blood cell, and amoeba is cell membrane. White blood cell is found in the blood cell, then amoeba, Iglina. But the structure that is common to all of them, vacuole is not common to all of them. Cell wall, they don't have cell wall because cell wall is found in plants, and white blood cell is an animal cell. Amoeba is also an animal cell. Iglina possess both plant and animal characteristics. So cell wall is not common to the 3 of them. Cilia, you don't find cilia in any of them. Cilia is not found in any of those 3 organisms. So it's only cell membrane that is common to all the 3. Then the next question, the answer is B, mitochondria. Mitochondria is also known as the powerhouse of the cell. It is not the nucleus, neither is it the Golgi body or the nucleus. It's the mitochondria that is the powerhouse of the cell. Then number 4, the answer is chromosomes. C, chromosome, is the chromosome that carries the unit of inheritance, and the unit of its inheritance is called gene. So it's the chromosome that carries the gene. So that is why the answer is chromosome. Then number 5, the answer is B, Iglina. Iglina is the organism that carries out movement, nutrition, growth, excretion, and photosynthesis with only a single cell. Iglina is a unicellular organism. So is amoeba, paramecium. But what can make you to miss this question is photosynthesis, because all the other organisms carries out movement, nutrition, growth, and excretion with their single cell. But they don't carry out photosynthesis because they are not plant-like in nature. They are not autotrophic. That is why Iglina is the answer. Iglina has both animal and plant characteristics, so that's what singles it out. If not for photosynthesis, any of the other options will be correct. But photosynthesis singles out Iglina out because Iglina will also perform the role of photosynthesis. Moving on in our biology class for SS1, we'll be looking at tissues and supporting systems. Then we'll be talking about the skeleton. What is the skeleton? What size do we have? How can you relate to it? And everything about the skeleton, that's what we'll be talking about now. The skeleton is the hard structure that supports and maintains the shape of an animal. The hard structure that maintains the shape of an animal, that gives it its structure, then its shape. That's what we call the skeleton, like it's the framework of an animal. Then we have 2 types of skeleton. We have the exoskeleton and the endoskeleton. Exo tells you that it's external, while the endoskeleton tells you that it is internal. The exoskeleton is the skeleton that is external to the body, it's outside the body, while the endoskeleton is the skeleton that is found, that is the structure that supports the animal, that is within the body of the animal. That's what we call the endoskeleton. But I'll be talking more about this type of skeleton. The exoskeleton, it is the outer covering of the body of certain animals. We find it on the outer body of the animal, and such animals include the snail, the crabs, the millipedes, insects, spider. Their own skeleton is external to their body. Then they include hard parts, strong parts like the hair, the nails, the feathers, the hoofs, the scales. So those are the examples of the exoskeleton that you can find in the animals that I've mentioned earlier. The hair, the nails, feathers, hoofs, scales. And other exoskeleton include the ones you find in mollusks. We talked about mollusks earlier. And the tortoise shell, the shell of the tortoise, you know, it's a strong structure. You have seen a tortoise before. Like the covering, the shell of the tortoise is very strong. When you touch it, it's so hard. So that's an example of an exoskeleton. Then it has a cuticle that contains the chitin, and it is made up of mineral salts like phosphate and carbonate